Every school has its legends, but ours is different. Ours isn't about a haunted bathroom or a ghost in the gym. Ours is about a note, a single sheet of paper that appears every year, always on the same day, always in the same place. No one knows who writes it or how it gets there, but everyone knows what it means. Lockdown. The first time I heard about the note, I was a freshman. It was late September, and the air was just starting to turn cold. I was still getting used to the building, the endless hallways, and the way the lights flickered in the science wing. One morning, I walked into homeroom to find everyone whispering, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. On the whiteboard, written in thick black marker, was a message. It's today. I didn't understand at first, but then the teacher came in, pale and tense, and told us to stay in our seats. "We're going into lockdown," she said, her voice shaking. "This is not a drill." The announcement came over the intercom a few seconds later, and the whole school went silent. Doors locked, lights off. Everyone huddled in corners, waiting for something to happen. Nothing ever did. After an hour, the principal came on the intercom and told us it was safe to return to class. But the fear lingered. Later that day, I heard the older students talking about the note. "It happens every year," one of them said. "Always on the same day. Always in the same classroom." I asked what the note said, but no one would tell me. They just shook their heads and walked away. The next year it happened again. This time, I was ready. I got to school early and made my way to the classroom where the note was supposed to appear. The door was locked, but I could see through the window, a single sheet of paper taped to the inside of the door. I couldn't read the words, but I could see the handwriting. Neat, careful, almost old-fashioned. The teacher arrived a few minutes later, saw the note, and immediately called the office. Within minutes, the school was in lockdown again. By my junior year, the story had become a ritual. Students would place bets on which classroom the note would appear in, or try to guess what it would say. But no one ever saw who left it. The cameras in the hallway never caught anything. The janitors swore they checked every room before locking up at night. But every year, without fail, the note would be there, waiting. By senior year, the note was all anyone could talk about as the date approached. Some people joked about it, calling it the school's ghostwriter or the Phantom of Room 213. Others took it more seriously, whispering that the note was a warning, that something bad would happen if we ever ignored it. The teachers never talked about it openly, but you could see the tension in their faces as the day drew near. Even the principal seemed on edge, walking the halls more than usual, checking every door and window before the first bell. That year, I decided I had to see the note for myself. I convinced my friend Sam to come with me, and we got to school before sunrise. The halls were empty, the lights still off, and our footsteps echoed as we made our way to room 213, the classroom where the note had appeared the last 2 years. We pressed our faces to the glass, peering into the darkness. At first, we didn't see anything, but then, as the sun started to rise and the light crept across the floor, we saw it. A single sheet of paper taped to the inside of the door. Sam's hand shook as he took out his phone to snap a picture, but the glare on the glass made it impossible to get a clear shot. We waited until the first teacher arrived, watched as she unlocked the door, and saw her face go pale when she spotted the note. She didn't touch it, just called the office, her voice tight with fear. Within minutes, the lockdown announcement came over the intercom, and the routine began again. This time, though, I caught a glimpse of the note before the teacher pulled the door shut. The handwriting was the same as always, neat, careful, almost elegant. But the message was different. Instead of the usual, "It's today," it read, "Don't open the door for anyone, not even if you know their voice." The words sent a chill down my spine. I thought about all the stories I'd heard, about people hearing voices in the hallway during lockdowns, about students who swore they'd seen someone moving past the windows when the halls were supposed to be empty. The lockdown lasted longer that year. We sat in the dark for almost 2 hours, listening to the silence jumping at every creak and groan of the old building. When it was finally over, the principal made an announcement, his voice strained. "Thank you for your cooperation. Please return to your classes." No one mentioned the note. No one ever does, but every year it comes back, always in the same place, always with a new message. And no matter how many cameras they install, no matter how many times they change the locks, no one ever sees who leaves it behind. After graduation, I thought I'd leave the note and the fear that came with it behind. But the story followed me. Every fall, when the air turned cold and the leaves started to drop, I'd find myself thinking about that classroom, about the way the note seemed to know things no one else could. I kept in touch with Sam, and every year we'd text each other on the anniversary, wondering if the note had appeared again. It always did. My younger sister started at the school a year after I left, and she called me the morning of her first lockdown. "It happened again," she whispered, her voice shaking. The note was there. This time it said, "Stay away from the windows. Don't look outside, no matter what you hear." She told me that during the lockdown, some kids swore they heard voices calling their names from the hallway, voices that sounded like their friends, their parents, even their own. But the teachers kept everyone away from the doors and windows, just like the note said. The school tried everything to stop it. They changed the locks, installed new security cameras, even hired a night guard to patrol the halls. But every year the note appeared, always in the same classroom, always with a new warning. Some people said it was just a prank, a tradition that had gotten out of hand. But the teachers never laughed. They took the note seriously, following its instructions to the letter. One year, a substitute teacher didn't know the story. She found the note, read it, and shrugged it off as a joke. She didn't call the office, didn't lock the door, didn't follow the instructions. That day, the fire alarm went off in the middle of class. The students started to get up, but a few of them remembered the warnings from previous years and stayed put. The rest followed the teacher into the hallway. When the lockdown was finally lifted, the students who had stayed behind said they'd heard footsteps running past the door and a voice whispering, "You shouldn't have opened the door." The substitute quit the next day. After that, no one ever ignored the note again. Now, years later, the story has become part of the school's identity. New students hear about it from older siblings. Teachers pass down the warnings to new staff. And every fall, everyone waits to see what the note will say. Some people say it's just a story, a way to keep kids in line during lockdowns. But those of us who've seen the note, who've felt the fear in the air when it appears, know better. The note is real. The warnings are real. And every year we wait, hoping that this time the message will be different. I've tried to make sense of it, to find some logical explanation. I've talked to teachers who've worked at the school for decades, and even they can't remember when the note first started appearing. Some say it's been happening since the 70s. Others think it goes back even further. The oldest yearbook in the library has a page dedicated to the tradition, but it's just a blurry photo of a classroom door and a caption that reads, "Some warnings are meant to be followed." I once asked the janitor, Mr. Harris, if he'd ever seen anyone leave the note. He just shook his head and said, "No one ever does." I check that room every night before I leave. It's always empty. But come morning, the note is there, taped to the door like it's been waiting all night. He wouldn't say anything else, just gave me a look that told me not to ask again. Over the years, the messages have changed, but the feeling they bring never does. Sometimes the note is just a date. Sometimes it's a warning. Sometimes it's a plea. One year it simply said, "Don't answer the phone." That day, the office phone rang nonstop during the lockdown, but no one picked up. Another year, the note read, "Cover the mirrors." The teachers draped jackets and paper over every reflective surface in the classroom, and some students swore they saw faces in the glass before it was covered. The strangest part is that nothing ever actually happens, at least nothing anyone can prove. There are no break-ins, no emergencies, no real threats, but the fear is real, and the sense that something is watching, waiting, is impossible to shake. It's as if the note is keeping something at bay, or maybe just reminding us that the world isn't as safe or predictable as we want to believe. I've heard rumors that other schools in the area have their own stories, strange announcements, unexplained power outages, doors that won't open during drills. But none of them have the note. None of them have a warning that appears year after year, always in the same place, always with a message that seems to know exactly what's coming. Now, whenever I visit my old school, I find myself glancing at the door to room 213, half expecting to see that familiar sheet of paper. I know I'm not the only one. Even the bravest teachers pause before unlocking that door in late September, their hands trembling just a little. We all wonder the same thing. Who writes the note? What is it warning us about? And what would happen if, just once, we ignored it? There are some who say the note is just a superstition, a relic of old fears passed down from one generation to the next. But if that's true, why does it always appear? No matter how many times the school changes the locks or repaints the doors, why does the handwriting never change? Always that same careful script, as if written by someone who's been gone for decades. And why do the warnings always seem to fit the year? Mirrors one year, phones the next, windows another, like the note knows what's coming before anyone else does. I've heard stories from teachers who tried to ignore the note, who thought it was just a prank. One said she left the note on the door and went about her day as usual. That afternoon, the fire alarm went off, and the whole school evacuated. When they returned, her classroom was ice cold, and every desk was turned to face the door. Another teacher tried to throw the note away, but it reappeared on his desk the next morning. The message changed. You can't get rid of me. The students talk about the note in hushed voices, daring each other to sneak into room 213 the night before the anniversary. No one ever does. Some say if you see the note before the teachers do, you'll have bad luck all year. Others claim the note is written by a former student who disappeared during a lockdown decades ago. Her spirit trapped in the school, trying to protect the rest of us from whatever took her. No one knows the truth, but every year when the date approaches, the whole school changes. The halls are quieter, the teachers more watchful, the students more obedient. Everyone waits for the note to appear, and when it does, no one questions it. The lockdown happens, the warnings are followed, and when it's over, the note is gone, vanished as mysteriously as it arrived. I sometimes wonder what would happen if the note ever stopped appearing. Would we be safe? Or would that mean whatever it's been warning us about has finally gotten in? Would the silence be a relief, or would it be the start of something worse? No one wants to find out. So we wait, year after year, for the note that appears every September. We follow its instructions, we whisper its warnings, and we hope that, for another year, it's enough to keep us safe. Because in our school, the note isn't just a legend. It's a promise, a warning, and a mystery that no one has ever solved. And every year as the air turns cold and the leaves begin to fall, we all wonder, what will the note say this time? I think about the note more often than I'd like to admit. Sometimes, late at night, I'll dream about walking those halls again, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the echo of my footsteps on the linoleum. In the dream, I always end up outside room 213, staring at the door, knowing the note is waiting on the other side. I wake up with my heart pounding, the words from the latest warning still ringing in my ears. I've talked to other graduates and they all say the same thing. No matter how far they go, no matter how many years pass, the memory of the note stays with them. Some say it made them more cautious, more aware of the world's dangers. Others say it left them with a sense of unease, a feeling that some mysteries are better left unsolved. But none of us can forget the fear that came with every lockdown, the way the school seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the note to appear. Every year when the anniversary comes around, I check in with my sister. She's a senior now, and she's seen the note 4 times. Last year, the message was simple. Don't trust the silence. She told me that during the lockdown, the school was quieter than she'd ever heard it, as if the building itself was listening. Some students said they heard footsteps in the empty halls. Others swore they saw shadows moving past the windows. But everyone stayed put, just like the note said, and when the lockdown ended, everything went back to normal. But normal never really feels the same after you've seen the note. It's like a thread running through the fabric of the school, tying together generations of students and teachers, a shared secret that no one outside those walls can understand. We don't know who writes the note, or why it appears, or what it's really protecting us from. All we know is that it's always there, always waiting, always one step ahead of whatever danger might be lurking just out of sight. So if you ever find yourself in a school with a story like ours, pay attention to the warnings. Listen to the teachers, trust your instincts, and never ignore a message that seems to know more than it should. Because sometimes the only thing standing between you and the unknown is a single sheet of paper taped to a door with a message you can't afford to ignore. And if you ever see the note for yourself, remember, you're not alone. We've all been there, waiting in the dark, hoping the warning is enough. And every year we wonder if this will be the year the note finally tells us the truth.